I will let people start loading in. As soon as I see eyeballs starting on the screen, then I will begin the show. Hopefully this will actually get going, but I just want to make sure that everything's all right. Check, check. Oh, I see eyeballs. I see eyeballs. Okay, it's working. Awesome. Okay, so everybody, welcome to the show. I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is the second ever episode of Why Are We Bullish? I've got some excellent guests. Very excited. I will introduce them momentarily, but we're going to be this is a giant equivalent of a Twitter shit post, but in YouTube form. And it's just going to be a giant circle jerk about how much we're excited about Bitcoin. And that's the format of the show. So we're going to dive in right away, but let's get this thing rolling.
Hodl the Bitcoin.
All right, so we are first going to get started. I just want to, of course, give I always do this. I'm learning. Okay, there we go. Sorry, guys. Anyways, shout out to sponsors of the show, LEDN.io. You can use your Bitcoin for a variety of different services here. They have their Bitcoin back loans. So, of course, if you're in a pinch, you need dollars and you don't want to sell your Bitcoin, could be for you because, of course, selling it is taxable and you might have to buy back in at a higher price point. So options there. They've got also Bitcoin USD and USDC savings accounts and their B2X offering, which uses the same loan mechanism to instantly buy more Bitcoin, effectively doubling your Bitcoin on the spot. Link in the show notes down below if you want to check them out. And also if you sign up for one of the loan products, they will give you 25 bucks into your savings account right off the bat. And of course, we have the legends at Crypto Cloaks. These guys are incredible. They just added a banner because everybody loves them so much and is ordering so much shit, but they've got their 3D printers just going burr, and they are dropping a ton of awesome Bitcoin swag, shells for your nodes. They've got the Citadel flag. They've got covers for your hardware wallets. They've even got night lights if that's your thing. So head over, check them out. Code BTC Sessions for 5% off at checkout. We have the Cobo Vault. They're going to be part of Black Friday coming up. This thing has moved into one of my regularly used hardware wallets. It is 100% air gapped, all over QR code, at open source firmware, secure element, and it works with all of my favorite wallets. The important ones that I really love: Wasabi on desktop, Blue Wallet on mobile. So be sure to check them out. Also links for the Black Friday stuff down below. And finally, if you're living on Bitcoin or you just want to treat yourself, Bitrefill, a ton of gift cards for it basically helps me live on Bitcoin. I'm as all in as you can be. And sometimes I need to eat. So Bitrefill is where I go to scratch that itch. They work in tons of different countries and you earn sats back as you go. So be sure to check them out. Let's take a look at where we're at right now. Bitcoin sitting around $16,149. That is 6,192 Satoshis per dollar. Getting down there, guys. Getting down. When 3-digit sat per dollar, we will see. 88.3% of all Bitcoin have been issued. And right now, fees for next block, 60 sats per byte, 7 sats for half an hour, and anything beyond that, 1 sat per byte. So if you need to move some stuff around, maybe the time is now, because those 1 sat per byte days are going to be fewer and further between. But with that, let's start adding in our guests here. I've got a few really great ones. I'm going to get them all up and running here. Of course, I have. Actually, I'm going to let you guys go through. We are one shy, I should say, Miss Hoddle, unfortunately, is living in the boonies, and her connection just was not cutting it. But we will try again with her soon. But I'm going to start with Adam. Adam, can you give a little intro of yourself?
Yeah, I'm Adam O'Brien. I am in Canada, in Edmonton, and I own Bitcoin Solutions. We're a Bitcoin ATM operator up here in Canada.
Awesome. Let's go on to John.
What's up, guys? My name is John, and I am the host of the Bitcoin Rapid Fire podcast.
Awesome. And Phil, take it away.
Hey, everyone. My name's Phil Geiger. I'm the Director of Product Marketing at Unchained Capital. Really excited to be here today.
Awesome. This is going to be an exciting, fun conversation. I'm super bullish. Basically, the format here is we're each going to drop a reason why we're feeling bullish. It can be kind of like a recent event, so just something we're excited about. I'm going to kick it off. We can riff on it, and then we'll move on to the next. So I'm just going to quickly screen share one more time here. This tweet by Mr. Hoddle, not to be confused with Miss Hoddle. This tweet from Mr. Hoddle, he says, "We're at 16K with zero hype. This is going to get stupid." And he shows the search trends with Bitcoin, and we have barely moved, and we are getting close to all-time highs. And it just kind of goes to show, and maybe I'll blow this up just so everybody can really see. But yeah, the search is, up from like 2016, but it's nowhere near the mania that we saw in 2017. And I think it kind of beckons to the fact that this next year could really blow people away. And you see it more, but there's the level of irrational exuberance outside of just the hardcore Bitcoiners is non-existent. Nobody gives a shit still. And we've only ever been above these levels for what, like a week, 2 weeks
or something.
Yeah, 10 days. It's insane. Yeah. So anyways, I just wanted to riff on this and say, I don't think we've even come close to seeing anything yet. And we're going to have potentially multi-$1,000 single day candles, and it'll just be a normal thing. I don't know. I'll pass it to Adam.
We were just talking about this with the team just this morning. So we're in Bitcoin ATM space. We have a pretty good insight as to what the retail market is kind of doing. And our numbers have been good, but they've been pretty steady. And last time this happened, it was the exact same thing. This is where Bitcoin was in 2016 at the $1,000 level. It was occasionally you get a text of oh, hey, Bitcoin's going up. What's going on? And that's kind of it. The occasional busier day than normal. But when we see when Bitcoin was $5,000 back then, when it started hitting that kind of trajectory, that's when the tech started flying in. That's when everything kind of got crazy, which for us at these price levels is 100K, which means, the mainstream, the normies, or whatever you want to call them, don't really wake up until, that kind of $100,000 mark, which is crazy to think that that's kind of I don't know. It's kind of in the sights.
Yeah, absolutely. John, how are you feeling?
I feel fantastic. Yeah, I mean, what really is amazing to me, I mean, I agree. I mean, I'm getting hit up by a lot of friends and stuff, but they're the closer friends that have kind of known what my interest in the space has been for a long time. And now they're just starting to get pushed over the edge. And nothing pushes people over the edge and piques their interest like NGU, as we all know. But I agree. I mean, it seems like this is mainly institutionally led, and retail is kind of lagging behind. And I don't know if that's a bias of the price. As this creeps up, people are thinking, wow, it's so expensive. I mean, why even bother? I'm never going to be able to buy a full Bitcoin, which is why, on a side note, I really think, SAT's the standard is something that we should be promoting in this space. But look, I mean, I love number go up. We all love number go up. But what I really love is that a lot of people, I speak to a lot of class of 2020 Bitcoiners, and not only are they getting it faster than, previous years, it seems, but it's almost like people are becoming attracted to, comparison to 2017, that was pure speculation, right? People like Googling, what is Bitcoin? How to buy Bitcoin? They buy Bitcoin, they got burned, they sold, they hodled, whatever. But I think the broader narrative of this being a parallel new growing economy and culture is actually starting to be a very compelling aspect of this narrative and being involved in this. And that's partially a result of the fact that there is a very real economy and culture being built here by us and everybody else that's in this space. And I talk about this a lot on my show, but the Bitcoin is the tool. It's the how, but the what is a new civilization. Basically, it's a renaissance, and the different components of that renaissance, the art, the culture, the expression, the music, the behavior, the method of interacting, the governance, all this kind of stuff is actually what we are all playing with and molding and testing out right now as being a part of this space. And it seems to be compelling to outsiders looking in. Like, yeah, money is, but because like at least to this point, I know Bitcoin has like crushed over the last 2 weeks, but like markets have been rewarding people pretty good this year. Like if you were in the markets, if you were well positioned in traditional markets, like you probably did okay. And so I don't think it's exclusively number go up. I think people see this community of, bright, articulate, confident, hopeful people where there's there's so much support and there's so much interaction, and they want to be a part of that. And the different philosophies and the different understandings that this community is always kind of grappling with and exploring and refining and talking about, I think has a broader and broader appeal against the backdrop of the Rona and the macro landscape and that kind of stuff. And so, the thing that I'm most bullish about is that it's becoming more and more apparent that this thing that we're all contributing to is transforming people. It's transforming how they live, how they act, how they behave. And it's as a result of having a collective of kind of transformed people, a new civilization, a new culture is emerging. And that's the most exciting thing, because that's your life. It's great to have X number of Satoshis or dollars in your bank account, but your day-to-day existence is all about your satisfaction, your energy levels, your happiness, who you're interacting with, and what you're devoting your energy to. And I think that's the real story that's emerging here, and nothing makes me more excited than that.
I agree. I wanted to touch on something you said briefly before we go into Phil here. You said people are getting it faster, and I think I totally agree with you. Like you see it with, obviously Michael Saylor had to do his research in what he was doing, but when it comes to it, he got from the point of more or less being introduced to it to absolute like sound money maximalists and Bitcoin is the one in like a matter of months. And I see this out of regular everyday people coming in too. And I think part of it is because of the quality, and I say this as I'm running a number go up shitpost show right now, but the quality of material that's out there right now when it comes to like very thoughtful, like Robert Breedlove and Parker Lewis style writing and people on podcasts, and John, your podcast in particular, you get like deep into the implications of Bitcoin. And when people come to the table and they're presented with like DeFi bullshit, and then they're presented with like, here is a philosophical reason as to why this is important to society, they gravitate towards the more compelling argument. And I think that's an excellent thing, but I'll pass it off to Phil here and let him chime in a little bit too.
Sure. Well, I'm just generally extremely bullish right now. I ran the numbers. I have been chugging Red Bull all morning. I ate some Rocky Mountain oysters, and I'm taking a look at the HODL waves. And the network looks identical today as it did in 2016 when the price was $400, $500. Bitcoin hodlers are not getting out of bed for $16,000. We're not selling our Bitcoin. Some of the medium hands, might be moving their coins around. Some of the 1 to 2 year coins might be moving a little bit, but the long-term holders, no. 16 went 100K. To some of the earlier conversations, so I just kind of reduced the level of critical thinking on this episode. But to some of the earlier points, yeah, I mean, I think what we see at Unchained Capital is, especially since the Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy news, is companies are coming and asking about Bitcoin, and we're talking to sort of board level members that are just waiting to be orange pilled. Like, they're ready. They just want to have a good reason to pass along. So we're in a lot of conversations with people that are coming to the conclusion that I think many of us have come to early on, much faster. And it's definitely thanks to the level of content that we have. John and Ben, you guys, putting out awesome podcasts, and working with, Parker and other members of the Unchained team to write up the Gradually Then Suddenly series and other good content. It all just helps. It's all, high quality materials really does make an impact, and it allows people to see what we've seen much quicker, and then get on board. So things are accelerating. It's very exciting to see.
Yeah. 100%. Now, I want to give everybody a chance to kind of drop their reason for being bullish and to riff on it, and we'll do that. I just want to say that everybody watching right now, first of all, thank you for being here. But ways that you can help get this in front of more eyeballs is smash that like button on YouTube, share it wherever you may like, and also jump in the chat, because we're seeing. I'm bringing up messages into the live stream here. Robin Banks says I will still buy at 100K for fuck's sakes. so loving the commentary from everybody. But thanks for joining in. Of course, smash the like button, give it a share, retweet wherever you are. But I'm gonna toss it to Adam first, and I'd love to hear what's got you bullish lately.
Yeah, man, just seeing the retail signs is kind of what's seeing me bullish. Like, I totally agree. Like, kind of building off what you said earlier, Ben, about, or maybe it was John that said something about the institutions kind of jumping in. And that's certainly the case. What we saw, and this kind of just builds into how bullish I am, I guess, not necessarily why I'm bullish per se. But last bull run, we had all of the corporations kind of denouncing, or kind of, nobody was jumping in like how they are. I think that this, one thing that might, in my mind, what could happen is they might misappropriate this bull run because of the institutions, when in reality this is just part of that mining cycle. Like, I don't know what the three of you guys think. I think Ben and I kind of have chatted about this a little bit, but like, it's just Bitcoin being Bitcoin, and we're kind of getting to that time of the year and that time of the mining cycle where this is just like what's supposed to happen. And I think that people don't really truly realize that, and everyone is kind of like the retail people that come into our offices, or that are, my buddies or my acquaintances that are like texting me and kind of hitting me on Facebook or Twitter. And they're like, what's happening? Is it because of the economy? Trump or Biden, which one affects the price of Bitcoin? I'm like, yeah, it like doesn't matter. Like, it's Bitcoin being Bitcoin. And this is kind of just how it works. This is true supply and demand economics. And I think our world has been so far removed from that, like, unbiased, untainted economy for so long, that it's just like so foreign to people that, like, what do you mean the money supply is going down? That's not how it's supposed to. That can't be good, right? It's like, no, that's actually very good. That's how money is supposed to work. And I think that now people, when we used to talk to people talking about, the world and the economy, well, we're in Canada, we're in the States, and our Fed is very strong, and our currency, Venezuela, I mean, that was doomed forever, but we're so strong over here. And then now everyone's, oh, maybe it's not that strong, right? They're printing, what is the trillions daily. Like, it's absolutely mind blowing. And so people with half a brain are now waking up, and it's no longer conspiracy theory. It's no longer like tinfoil hat, like, okay, the world economy is going to crash. It's like, no, it's just happening. And there is a sound money out there. And that's why I think people like Michael Saylor, like, they just wake up so fast because they're seeing it happen before their eyes. And they're the first of, like, it has to be a matter of time before guys like Buffett are just like, yeah, I was wrong. And like maybe Buffett's ego, like himself, his ego's too big, but like it's going to start happening where, I mean, I'm not sure. I've had my PayPal account, multiple PayPal accounts shut down because of crypto. And now I can like buy a derivative of crypto on PayPal. I think more of that stuff's going to continue happening. And that's kind of what, like, now, not the banks, but the kind of intermediary, multi-level banks are kind of jumping in. And that's kind of where I see like this is coming mainstream.
Yeah. I funny you mentioned conspiracy theories and economy, because I tweeted it like 2 weeks ago, but I was at the gym, and the girl working the desk used to be work at a bank, and she saw that I was into Bitcoin, and then I said something about how I didn't think that deflation was a bad thing, and she's like, "Well, you don't want to be a conspiracy theorist." When people suggesting that a deflationary monetary system is conspiracy theory, if I think it's good, we're still early, is what I'm getting at.
We're still very early.
That's wild, because like
I had
1% of people even like know what that means. To be frank, like I'm surprised that even she took that track to it.
Yeah,
well, she was a pretty, like, that particular girl was from finance, right? Like, she should have known her stuff. She should have known how inflationary versus deflationary, like, that's a big difference. Would she been like, was that the spirit of the conversation?
Yeah, like she knew fully what it was. Again, she understood. She went to school and again, like, took like macro. But I think it's just a symptom of the education system and like the indoctrination of Keynesian thinking that this is the only way that it could possibly be, and anything outside of what we've experienced since 71 is insane. So I don't know. Have you guys experienced similar things? Like, maybe not to that level, but
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. When you were telling your story, it reminded me of a person who came into the office earlier this week, and they're a former banker, and this year just pushed them over the edge. They're like, I'm ready to tear this system down. Like, how do I help with Bitcoin? How do I get started with Bitcoin? Like, what do I do? How do I educate people? But they were just they looked at what was going on, and they were feeling a little disgusted, and they're ready to try something new.
How about you, John? Anybody calling you a quack for flying the Bitcoin flag lately?
Not really. I mean, I've been so into it for a while that like they kind of know like anyone who's close to me knows to expect that stuff. If anything, I'm becoming more vindicated now, right? As we all are, because we seem to be getting proven correct with each passing day. And so now people are kind of waking up and saying, well, maybe he wasn't so crazy, and maybe, I should have a sit down, a coffee, a dinner with him, and we should get into the details here. But, regarding inflation and deflation, I think generally people understand that prices go up and that sucks for them. So like they've heard about inflation, and we have an inflation mandate and all this kind of stuff. So people have a basic understanding of that, even though they certainly don't consider it theft, and they don't really understand how it all works. Deflation, I would say most normal people that haven't had any exposure to, the finance or monetary or banking industry, I don't think they know what that even means. I just think it's not part of their lexicon. It's not part of their understanding. So, even that, when you broach that subject with people, when you're having that kind of Bitcoin heart to heart, you can see the wheels slowly turning, and it's great ultimately if they actually have an open mind to listening. But one point on I think what Adam was saying about Buffett and the kind of bigger institutional guys coming in these days, so NGU I think is what brings most people in, and then they're in through the door, and then they start learning more. But what I love about Bitcoiners in this space is shame is also a huge driver these days, right? Like, because with all the information that's out there, with all the Breedloves, Parker Lewis's, great thinkers, writers, content, your Raoul Pals, your Michael Saylors, your Paul Tudor Jones is all, talking about this stuff and describing, how bullish they are about it. Like, and Bitcoiners will just take that as ammunition. And anybody who's, you know, negative on Bitcoin, they will just shame the shit out of you until you, like, eventually you will bend and you'll say, like, I'm going to get involved in this now just so I don't have a giant.
Oh no, right at the peak.
Oh no. I was so excited about the giant something. What were you saying, John?
Oh, sorry. My am I back?
You're back.
Yeah. No, they're gonna take a position just because they don't want a giant egg on their face in 3 years, because they know how many fucking remind me tweets and how many, you know, Bitcoiners are just going to be tearing their limbs off for being so, you know, wrong on this. So I think the shame factor even applies to people, you know, like, you know, the biggest investors in the space. So, like, I don't want to be the one that was wrong about this and suffer the reputational damage for it. So, okay, I'll put 1% or something.
John, we call those spite coiners, where Bitcoiners don't need to be right, but they can't afford to be wrong.
Yeah,
So
Love
great.
that.
My favorite thing on Twitter is when Bitcoin Tina like tags on to some no coiner and his response is, you will buy at a much higher price. It's the best, because just him saying that further postpones that person buying, and like the vitriol they must feel for him saying you will buy at multiples of the current price, and no, I won't. And that it pushes it even further. And then the person's going to buy even later and get even angrier about it. At what point do they capitulate?
Yeah, one of the capitulating lately, I've noticed, like, you know, the kind of vocal, you know, people that were against it on Twitter. Like, you see a lot of them now starting to capitulate. So I think that'll continue.
Yeah.
What have you guys seen? Like, I've certainly seen a lot less people kind of challenging me on it. Maybe it's just my mindset, but there's a lot less kind of people challenging the idea or challenging the concept. I feel like it's kind of got a lot more validity from the eyes of a normie. And maybe I think to your point, Phil, like, I just really don't care what people think. And, like, you know, it doesn't really make a difference to me. Like, if you're going to buy Bitcoin, great, buy it. Otherwise, you know, you will buy at a much later price. Is like, great. I've seen that. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. Everyone will get Bitcoin at the price that they deserve. And what's kind of funny about that is, for the really mega corporations and governments and central banks, like, Bitcoin unfortunately has to be worth like 100x from what it is today before it's going to be useful enough for those guys. So sorry, central banks and large, you know, Apples of the world. We're going to have to make NGU quite a bit before Bitcoin will be useful for you guys.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
I just saw Tower. I'll bring it up here, but I want to give a shout out to the Swan Bitcoin team, because there is now a 24/7 Bitcoin TV stream that goes. And I think, John, some of your content is on there. I know they've been playing some of my content. I'm pretty sure this will be on there later, but, you know, hopefully, you know, assuming Brecky likes likes the circle jerk that is happening right now. But
it's an awesome idea. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great idea. 24/7 Bitcoin streaming TV. I can't imagine if I had access to that like in 2014. Man, I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have worked enough to have fed myself. I may not be here today, but yeah, still. And again, it kind of beckons to the fact that we have so much more content available for new entrants into the space. At this point, ignorance is almost a choice, and I think that's going to help a lot of people this time around, and hopefully allow people, if they choose to make less mistakes. Some people can kind of leapfrog that pre-coiner, shitcoiner phase, hopefully, with some of this stuff. I don't know, but like, so I wanted to ask a general question to everybody, but what do you think in the instance of an insane bull run like 2017, what would you see as being the differences this time around in terms of Bitcoin versus everything else? Do you see there being another like crazy shitcoin mania, or do you see that less pronounced? Does the fact that institutions and companies are putting their treasuries into this stuff, does that make the focus more so on Bitcoin and everything else will have trouble keeping up? Or does the retail FOMO and things like PayPal adding a bunch of extra stuff in there, does that also pump everything because it's so illiquid?
I think from my standpoint, I'm getting a lot less, what else should I buy? I think people are a lot more comfortable buying Bitcoin and owning fractions of a Bitcoin. I think, John, you hit it on the head. Satoshis has to be the unit of account. So people kind of can get over, like, we all understand up in here in Canada, our money's colored, and brown is a $100 bill and blue is a $5 bill. Everyone understands that having 3 blues is a lot less valuable than having 1 brown. But for some reason, no one understands that having, 0.1 Bitcoin is way better than having 10 million ether, regardless of price.
That's why we need stats the standard. I think John is right. Stats the standard.
But one thing that I hope too happens is a lot less people, where do I invest my Bitcoin? We're trained from early on that money is invaluable or like not valuable, and you have to invest it. You have to give it away to someone else to manage it for you. And I saw that mentality a ton a few years ago and that's when people got scammed, right? Oh, look at the arbitrage. My 1 Bitcoin turned into 1.2 Bitcoin, and that's way better. And like, obviously, more Bitcoin is better than less Bitcoin, but giving it to someone else to do that is a lot more dangerous. And I think that the general like education and the general space, the content in the space, like people holding their own coins and taking custody. Now, PayPal totally just messes that whole that entire thought process gets thrown out the window with what PayPal's doing. But I do hope that people understand that taking custody of their coins is like the most important thing you can do in Bitcoin. And I think that mindset is coming through a lot clearer right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody want to tag on to that?
Sure. I think it's kind of, it's funny. A lot of the altcoiners think like, oh, I'm just waiting for alt season, but there will come a point in time where alt season just doesn't happen because people are waking up and recognizing, wow, all of these alt currencies, we don't need them. They're not, they don't provide value. They are speculative kind of, they're worthless. They're shit coins. Yes. So people are kind of, I think a lot of the altcoin folks are waiting for that alt season, and maybe this summer of DeFi was it. But if you look at the values of all these altcoins measured in Bitcoin, like they're not pumping. Like Ethereum is never going to hit an all-time high measured in Bitcoin again. Like that's just not going to happen, I don't think. So yeah, I mean, I think people are jumping, much sooner into Bitcoin from not having anything and then not leaving. I think part of that is because there's an influx of new companies that are Bitcoin only. The Bitcoin kind of only ecosystem is now large enough to support exclusive companies. So like at Unchained Capital, we're Bitcoin only. One of the things that I worry about this bull market is I kind of disagree like with what Adam said a little bit, is there's a lot of people who are chasing yield in Bitcoin. So these interest accounts by these companies that are like centralized and hold on to private keys. I think that's an area where we're going to see some pain during this bull market. That's the thing that in my mind is, I think, the most scary is people chasing yield and giving up control of their private keys. And as we know, in Bitcoin, there's no security substitute to holding your own private keys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to say that you were talking about alt season, and when alt season, I think on a long enough time frame, if you zoom out, regardless of the alt, it turns out that alt season is just a perpetual winter, really.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah, you can go live north of the wall. It's not pleasant, but
actually, there's 3 Canadians. We're north of the ice wall. And
I was going to say, is Canada alt?
Yeah, we can tell you it's cold north of the wall. Stay warm. Now, I wanted to I guess we'll dive over to John in just a sec, but I did want to say we have 110 live viewers right now. Thanks everybody for joining us. If you're there on YouTube, smash that like button. That really helps bump this video up in front of even more eyeballs. And of course, give it a share, retweet it wherever you like. And I will continue to try and bring up your comments in the live chat. But John, let's move to you. What has got you bullish as of late?
Well, just to comment on the last conversation, I mean, as far as like what will this bull run look like, it's anybody's guess, of course, but I think so much has lined up. Like now the narrative of come in, DCA, hold your own keys, and secure it properly. Like that is a very well established, because before it's like, how do I get into this stuff? When should I buy? When should I time the market? And should I get in shit coins and stuff? And like all the noise has been sucked out of the room. So it's just like, it's an accumulation game. Buy regularly and secure it. Don't think about selling it for 10, 15, 20 years until you exchange it for an actual good or service, right? Don't even think about, Bitcoin is now your unit of account. The only thing that matters is your nominal amount of Bitcoin, not the exchange value in whatever currency of your Bitcoin, right? If you have 1.1 Bitcoin and then the next month you have 1.11, you're ahead. That's the way you want to go. Then you've got all the de-risking by the traditional players, your Sailors and Tudor Jones and stuff like that. And then you've got the abundance of amazing content where not only is all this content explaining what Bitcoin is to people, but it's become its own like real genuine like intellectual pursuit in itself, where like we're kind of, I don't want to say we're breaking new ground, but it's like if you're that type of person where you get intellectually stimulated by something novel and new, like the Bitcoin space can now offer that to you, not just on, in its traditional realms that it was playing in. So I think all of those things are making the narrative around it so simple and so apparent, right? So, and I had always, my kind of base case was like the next decade will be the decade where this becomes, global money. Like sometime, let's say that takes the next 10 years. And that still may be the case. But once the cat is really out of the bag here and the macro landscape is a part of forcing people to kind of put their spotlight on this space and learn a little bit more, it's almost, sometimes I have a hard time thinking that it doesn't like really happen, gradually, then suddenly. It doesn't happen really, really fast because of all those variables. Like once that many people get it, and like I know Sailor came in and did something that's probably going to be atypical, but I don't think like our assumption that people will just have a 1% to 2% allocation, like I don't think that's going to play out either. I think, when corporate treasuries come in and like over the next year or two, like they'll probably be looking in the 10 to 20% range or possibly even higher. So all this just to say, it's so obvious to us, like it's so damn obvious what this is going to be, and I know that statement involves a lot of hubris and assumptions, but like we're all placing our bets that we're right and that, this thing will persist. And if it does, like that obviousness, I think, is being picked up by people. And if it's picked up by that, enough, that 10%, 20% of global corporates, of global people, then it, we just have this kind of watershed where it just washes away everything else. And I know a lot of the infrastructure has to change in order for that to happen. There's a lot of ingrained behavior and stuff like that. But it just seems like a really, set up landscape for rapid and dramatic change. And so, we haven't seen anything yet. I mean, this last month was wonderful, but it really seems like the tip of the iceberg. So I'm bullish about that. I'm bullish on Bitcoiners. That's always my default answer to this. I mean, I just continue to be impressed by the people in the space and how people are transforming the space. I mean, like I mentioned it on my my show with Sailor, but I don't know if you guys had the chance to look, but the last 10 years of videos on YouTube, I mean, I don't think I saw a smile. The whole, in these interviews and his presentations and stuff like that, and doing all these Bitcoin pods. I mean, he's grinning ear to ear for at least half the show. he's clearly amped up, as are all of we. We're energized by this. We're transformed by this. We're refining so many different things about our lives because of this, and so that makes me excited. The fact that we're integrating something, and something is emerging that has so much positive, beneficial effect for the empowerment of the individual, and how it's causing them to transform themselves for the better, and how a group of people, like a cultural Schelling point, is emerging around that, and we're at the beginnings of a nouveau renaissance sort of thing. I mean, what could possibly be more exciting than that? I mean, it's crazy. And then, well, the cherry on the top is the 100K party that's going down at Michael Saylor's house whenever we hit that mark. So that's what I'm bullish about.
So
probably.
Yeah, so you're the organizer for that, John. How many sats am I going to have to slip you under the table? How many sats am I going to need to grease that bouncer to get in the door there?
Yeah, I'll let you know. I don't want to make that public, but a couple of Bitcoins per person should do it.
Can you imagine like being in this position right now of like someone whose full-time job is like absolutely not Bitcoin. It's running this, billion-dollar company, and he is like the biggest public Bitcoin cheerleader today. Like he's just totally like the middle of his day, where like 2 months ago or maybe 5 months ago was spent like building his business, and building the business that he's paid like an exuberant amount of money to run is now spent talking to like, Bitcoiners, which is like, if you think about what that means for his and like even just looking at the stock price, like MicroStrategy has basically become a Bitcoin ETF, and it is incredible to see that happen like overnight, and watch a very high profile CEO just totally blow off whatever else he was doing and just jump full time into like
and talking about cyber hornets and like maximalists and shit on the internet. I mean, what must his executive team and his staff think?
Dude, his board, like what is his board of directors telling him? Like
what I think is really interesting about MicroStrategy, and maybe it's just 2020 in general, is at least in the Bitcoin space, I feel like there was a narrative shift where it's like the MicroStrategy team made the case that Bitcoin is not a speculative investment. This is a defensive play for a corporate treasury, right? They had a $500 million problem on their hands, and the best solution that a team of finance experts came to was to put it into Bitcoin. That's a defensive play. They're not trying to go out there and speculate. Like the 200 whatever plus $1 million that it's increased in value is like icing on the cake. They were simply looking at the market and being like, holy shit, we have to put this somewhere. What do we do with it? And so when you have a team like the MicroStrategy team taking a look at all of the different options and landing on Bitcoin, like they had a $500 million problem. Like how big of a problem do you have today? Right?
Totally.
Bitcoin, guys.
And someone just mentioned in the chat, and it bears repeating, it's like both Jones and Saylor and possibly others, when they articulated their reasoning and their rationale behind making this decision, they both identified the community both as a resource and the kind of ethos and philosophy of the community. And that was super cool to see, because it wasn't just a financial decision. They're saying there's something really special about the group of people that's coalescing around this thing, and that gives us even more confidence that this is real, and that it's got legs and all the rest of it. So again, bullish on Bitcoiners.
I wanted to touch on John, when you were talking about how it changes people, and again, like I was talking about this the other day. I can't remember who the original tweet was from, but somebody said something to the effect of, I think it was Brecky actually, Brecky Von Bitcoin. I almost said Crypto Brecky. I'm sure he would have snapped my neck for that one. But anyways, so he said something to the effect of, let me know how Bitcoin has changed you and changed your life. And I couldn't be more of a different person than when I first got into Bitcoin. Like I haven't really ever, I guess, publicly shared this story. John, I messaged you about it, I think, a while back. Maybe not. I can't recall. But so I've never been a good saver. I was never ever a good saver, and I always kind of wasn't sure sure why, but I think part of it early on, like when we first moved out to Calgary with my family, I was like 6 or 7, and we kind of hit like a kind of a rough patch. Like we couldn't afford things. I at the time I didn't understand fully, but I remember like my aunt bringing over groceries for the family and my mom like breaking down crying, and I just didn't understand what was going on, like why that was happening. And I remember at one point I had been saving my allowance for like a long time, and I was trying to, like, as a kid, trying to get into a habit of saving so that I could buy a bicycle. And I finally got to whatever it was, like 100 and something bucks. And I kept on pestering my mom and, you know, my parents. It's time now. I can go get a bicycle. I can go to get a bicycle. And it turned out they had to buy groceries with it. And I think, and like, you know, I was crushed, but at the same time, like in, you know, looking back in hindsight, I understand like we had to eat, you know, they had to take care of the family, but it instilled this like absolute deterrence of saving in me. And I think I brought that forward through high school and into my like younger adult life. And again, no fault of anybody. It was just tough times call for desperate measures. But what finally flicked that switch for me to get me back on that track was Bitcoin. The money, the incentive structure of Bitcoin was such that it completely changed this ingrained habit formed over 30 years of my life. And it changed it like that. It was a snap. And I just, even though I didn't understand why it was happening, I was saving. And I was putting away money, and I was able to actually look and say, okay, well, I've got to pay for this and that, and I've got bills and everything, but I should put some aside. And that developed more and more over time. And now I'm a completely different person. I look at my expenses day to day. And now I'm like as all in as you can get, because I literally, the majority of my income is Bitcoin. And I was worried about making that shift initially because I was like, oh no, I'm going to normalize spending it. And then I'm going to go back to my old ways. But the opposite has happened, because when I get paid in Bitcoin, I'm looking and I'm going, this money actually has value. How much of this do I actually want to spend? Do I need this? Do I need that? And I've completely shifted my framework through which I operate my entire life. And now I'm much more likely to plan for the future. And that has transcended beyond just like monetary, but like into health. I take much better care of myself. I'm conscious of what I eat. I go to the gym. It does really shift and change you. And so, John, to your point, I'm bullish as hell on the implications this means for people's behavior as a whole across the globe as we hopefully shift towards a Bitcoin standard. I don't know, Phil, like, has Bitcoin changed you in certain ways like that?
Absolutely. And before I answer that, what I was thinking about when you were sharing your story, it was one of the most disgusting and despicable things about the legacy system in central banking to me and inflation is the price of groceries increasing, right? As we get better at production and producing food, and higher quality goods, the prices of groceries and food should be decreasing over time. We can make food. It's not difficult. An egg is an egg, right? But the fact that the cost of an egg has increased this year 20%, 30%, that's exclusively because of central banking, and it's pushing people into a really tough position. So like for me, you know, that's one of the most disgusting things I think about the fiat economy and inflation is like it makes people's just basic needs cost a lot more. But anyways, talking about myself and how I have changed, you know, I was decent at saving before, but it didn't really, it wasn't something that I consciously thought about. Bitcoin has totally changed that about me. Now I really think about savings. I really think about making purchases, and it's like, do I really need this purchase? Do I want to save Bitcoin? I think it's going to increase in value. And it's made my consumption habits, I think, more, I don't want to say necessarily responsible, but yeah, like I think a lot more about what I'm going to be buying. And then as far as like, other areas of my life, like I think exercise has definitely taken a higher priority in my life since I got into Bitcoin, and spending time with friends and family.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, since you got the mic, Phil, I'm gonna move on to your reason for being bullish. But again, just before I dive in, we've got 134 people watching live right now, so thank you all for joining us. Smash that like button; that'll help get this in front of more people. And be sure to like, retweet, share wherever you like. And Phil, I'll toss it to you. What particular for you has you bullish as of late?
Well, I was thinking about this before the show, and really John's episode with Michael Saylor had me thinking about a lot of different things. In the episode, which I recommend everybody listen to, Saylor talks a lot about how Bitcoin kind of fixes monetary energy, or it allows people to unlock the like true potential of monetary energy. And in the past, throughout human history, whenever we've discovered like a new type of energy or have been able to unlock it, it has made humans, exponentially better off. And throughout history, we've struggled with approximations of currency. We haven't had true, real money until Bitcoin, because everything up until Bitcoin isn't truly scarce. And that's what digital scarcity brings to the table, is that because it's digital, it is actually scarce. So unlocking that potential of being able to effectively store your time and energy, and then be able to convert it into goods and services in the future without losing any of your life essence, really, is going to just make us so much more effective as a civilization. And in a lot of ways too, it connects us. So what's really interesting to me about working in Bitcoin is, I feel like a lot of my coworkers are distributed around the world, whereas before, maybe not so much. I was working with people in my community, but because we now have this shared global language of value, we can easily connect and relate to people of different cultures speaking different languages all over the world.
Mm-hmm. I agree. If John or Adam, if you want to tag onto that, I can let you take the mic a bit.
Yeah, I think that it certainly has shown me just how connected the world can be. Like it's shocking to think that even the four of us chatting in real time, you can see us face to face, but like until Bitcoin, there was no easy or apparent way to send any of you any money, which is kind of like sad if you think about it. It made the borders that the legacy finance system has kind of has had on the world for so long is so sad. Like it's just, there's no other way to put it. It's just sad. It's just sad that even the lack of caring, the lack of people wanting to get together and have the world open up for like this, worldwide economy, is very, very disappointing in the legacy finance system. And Bitcoin just does that like effortlessly. Like it's not even like, it's like an afterthought for Bitcoin, but it does it so well. It really, I mean, Bitcoin for me is just like the best form and the best issuance of supply and demand kind of economics in a true free market. And it's just so refreshing to see that.
It's interesting because money kind of serves as like this measuring stick for value and what people value. But then we've got 180 different types of measuring sticks around the world, and all of those measuring sticks are changing in size, larger and larger over time. So we just have like no easy consensus for value of anything. And all of a sudden Bitcoin drops in and it's global, and it offers this irrefutable measuring stick that the world is just starting to realize how to use. And it transcends global borders. You can just look to it. And I mean, I guess the US dollar was kind of that measurement with all its debasement, but it was the kind of best that we had, barring the gold standard, which people didn't measure things in gold. But now we have this decisive reference for actual value. And it's interesting to see that play out. To us, it's in slow motion, but it's happening very quickly.
Totally.
Yeah, I think what's and I like all of you look at the existing state of affairs and what they've been in the past, and when you compare it to something like Bitcoin, you're just like, oh my God, it's so broken. what you've got in these national currencies or in paper currencies in generally, and this is the terminology that Saylor used in our discussion, is like, in thermodynamic terms, you've got closed systems and open systems. And what you've got with these currencies that can be inflated to infinity and can, there's so much perversion and intervention and manipulation. You've got these open systems that, as you say, Ben, are trying to be a consistent measuring stick, but have no ability to do so. And what Bitcoin does is it creates a closed system so that the data loss and the energy loss is non-existent effectively, so that you can actually use it for a proper measuring stick. And then what you have on top of that is the siloing of all these open systems. So you got all these open shitty systems with data, information, and power laws, and then you've got them all each siloed, so that even to the degree that they serve as any ability to measure anything, they can't interoperate very easily. There's so much friction to that interoperability. And so what Bitcoin does is it's a closed system that minimizes that data loss, and it's open to everybody on the same terms. So it's so exciting to think what that's going to net for global trade and global savings and global commerce and finance and the economic systems that would be built on top of that when you have a consistent measuring stick and a frictionless means of using it across the entire globe for everybody. I mean, like, if we think anything about our existing paradigm is positive, and surely we each have our bright spots, whether it's technology or whatever we're into, thinking about what that will become and in how many different domains we'll have things that we're excited about and happy about as a result of a system like that is like, it boggles the mind to even think about. And to be honest, I don't think if the change were to happen hypothetically tomorrow, I don't think it would take very much time for things to readjust. I mean, look how quickly each of us are adjusting our economic behavior and our social behavior and our other behaviors towards ourselves, because we have a mechanism like this now, we have a tool like this now. So I know that's not how it's going to go. It is going to take a bit of a longer process to unfold. But I think this change that we keep talking about and imagining could happen, quite quickly once the cat is out of the bag and once the new system is established. We'd start seeing the fruits and the extreme benefits of that system pretty quickly. And just to a last point about the conversation about individual transformation, I talk about it a lot, and I like to explore the reasons behind it, because it's quite a phenomenon. But one that Ben and Phil, both when you gave your examples, and it's a simple one, like the time preference and the frugality thing, right? It's like, of course, you'd rather, have sats than the PlayStation, so you don't buy the PlayStation. And that's a pretty easy one to get. But if you peel back the onion a little bit more, I think it's like you kind of covet this thing that is Bitcoin now, because you feel certain things about it that you can't even really articulate. Like, you just know that it's more even special than you can identify in your mind. So you and then you look at a PlayStation, you say, well, do I covet, the Bitcoin more or the PlayStation more? And, you can make those decisions, but just to use a simple example, like, well, they can make as many PlayStations as they want, and that'll break over time, and that'll, whatever drawbacks. But when you say, so you're making this comparison between Bitcoin and whatever this other thing is. And I think one of the reasons why it's having such kind of, I hesitate to use the term, but like wholesome changes on people, is because you look at your Bitcoin and you say, no, I don't want all that crap. But you say, well, is it like when you compare your Bitcoin to your health, or time with family, or dedicating it towards things that you'd believe to be beautiful? Well, then like there's less of a contrast between those two. It's like more aligned almost. So like, yes, it's worth your time to go to the gym and refine your body, let's say, or treat it better, or spend time with loved ones. Like, that seems like a better trade than trading it for, some junk, something that's going to cloud up your mind or your living space. So I know that was a little bit wordy, but I just love to try to dig deeper on what this relationship that we have with this thing is, and what kind of changes it's inspiring. So, you know, and I think like Mike said in the interview again, like, yeah, I mean, for junk, it doesn't seem worthwhile to let go of your sats, but for things that are beautiful and things that are like deeply meaningful, like your loving relationships, like your health, like, you know, wherever other domains where you find beauty, well then, yeah, you know, that's what it's for. It's there to facilitate, you know, you engaging in those things more, because that's really what life is about, right? I mean, dying with a shitload of Satoshis. I mean, I know maybe we all want to have like a lineage and a legacy and, you know, populate galaxies someday. But, you know, while you're living, it's about those really core things that give you the most meaning and satisfaction and joy. And that's, you know, that's those things that you can't really buy. So
Yeah.
John,
I'm
taking this as your advice to forgo the PlayStation to buy a new bike.
I like that.
Whatever fills your heart with joy, Phil.
All right.
Yes, 100%. Well, guys, I think that's a good kind of note to start wrapping up on. First of all, thank you guys for joining me. I had a blast having some bullish chat, and we even got a little philosophical here, which I enjoy. That's a great reason to be bullish. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for coming. We've got like 150 live viewers right now, which is super awesome. If you're just getting here, this will be on YouTube to be able to be played back after the fact. But do smash that like button because it gets it in front of more people, and give it a share. I'm just going to go guest by guest really quick. And when I call your name, just again, let people know who you are and where they can find you. And also just a quick note to everybody, the links to their Twitter profiles are in the show notes. So Adam, take it away first.
Yeah, I'm Adam O'Brien at HiAdamOB on Twitter. And our website, bitcoinsolutions.ca, is where you can check us out.
Awesome. John, go ahead.
Yeah, guys. John Vallis, at John K. Vallis on Twitter, Bitcoin Rapid Fire Podcast. That's it. Great to speak with you guys this morning.
Awesome. And Phil, take it away.
Yeah, you can find me at Phil_Geiger on Twitter, or email me at phil@unchained-capital.com. I'd love to teach you how to use multisig for both you and your business. No longer do businesses have to rely on centralized third parties. You can now, as a company, hold your own private keys, and Unchained Capital is your full service financial partner. So check us out at our website. We'll help you get set up. We'll teach you everything you need to know.
Awesome. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I'm gonna start getting rid of your windows here, but I will see you again all very soon. I definitely hope so. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks for having us.
Everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching and or listening. You may be listening on the pod after the fact. I had a lot of fun chatting with these guys. I hope you enjoyed it. The chat was blowing up. Again, 150 live viewers, and I've seen people come and go all through. Of course, if you want to help out the show, you can always, of course, like, subscribe, and share. Those help big time. If you want to hit up the sponsors I mentioned before, that was LEDN, Crypto Cloaks, Cobo, and Bitrefill. All those links are in the show notes as well. And if you really liked what you saw, you can always drop me a Lightning Network tip at my tippin.me page. That is tippin.me/ad BTC sessions. With that, I'm out. Have yourselves a wonderful day, a wonderful evening, wherever you may be. See you next time for your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.